Vaishnava Thakur Doyara Sagara Idase Karuna Kori Oh hey Vaishnava Thakur Doyara Sagara Idase Pavachaya Sholohe Amar Tomara Charana Dori Chaya Bhegatomi Chaya Dosha Shodhi Chaya Guna Dase Chaya Bhegatomi Chaya Dosha Shodhi Chaya Guna Dase Chaya Satsanga Keho He Amare Mochashi Change Rashe Ekaki Amar Nahi Parvalo Hare Nama Sankirtani Ekaki Amar Nahi Parvalo Hare Nama Sankirtani Tumi Kripa Kore Shadabindu Diya Deho Krishna Nama Krishna se tomar, Krishna te paro, tomara shakate ache. Krishna se tomar, Krishna te paro, tomara shakate ache. Amito Ganga, Krishna Krishna bole. Dasa Pache Pache Amito Ganga Krishna Krishna Boli Dasa Pache Pache Ohe Vaishnava Thakur Doyara Sagara Edase Kori Dasa Avatar Stotram. We could sing it all together, if you wish. Pralaya Payoti Jale Vitta Jaya Tubhya Namah. Shri Dasa Avatar Stotram Ki Jai. Shri Dasa Avatar Ki Go Premanande. 2 shlokas. All right. Krishna. Would anybody like to chant a couple shlokas? Yes. Okay, 6 people are ready. Yes. Everybody else, you have a little nap. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Can Kama dvesha vayat sneha yatha bhaktishvare manaha adesha karadam hikta bhavasta gatim gata. Many persons have attained liberation simply by thinking of Krishna with great attention and giving up sinful activities. This great attention may be due to lusty desires, inimical feelings, fear, affection, or devotional service. I shall now explain how one receives Krishna's mercy simply by concentrating one's mind upon him. Gopya kama tvayat kamso dveshach chaitadayo nripa sambandhad vishaya snehad yuyam bhaktya vayam vibo. Somehow or other, one must... Oh, my dear King Yudhishthira, the gopis by their lusty desires, Kamsa by his fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their familial relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by our devotional service, have obtained the mercy of Krishna. Katamopi navinasya panchanam purusham prati tasmat kinatyapaina manakrishne niveshane. Somehow or other, one must consider the form of Krishna very seriously. Then, by one of the 5 different processes mentioned above, one can return home back to Godhead. Atheists like King Vena, however, being unable to think of Krishna's form in any of these 5 ways, cannot attain salvation. Therefore, one must somehow think of Krishna, whether in a friendly way or inimically. Shri Purarivacha Tatsaru Manye Suravaya Dehina Sada Samudvigna Diyama Sagraha Hivatmapatam Krihamanta Rupam Vadanankatogyaya Tadanashrayeta. Prahlad Maharaj replied, O best of the Asuras, King of the deities, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master, any person who has accepted a temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. One should give up this condition and go to the forest, Vana. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and should thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shri Puradu Vacha. Huh? I think we went too far down. Shri Puradu Vacha. Shravadam Kirtanam Vishnu. Smadanam Padasevinam. Archanam Anandasyam. Sakyam Atmanivedam. Iti Sarkata Vishnu. Bhaktishchaya Lakshana. Kriyeta Bhagavatyata. Tanmani Tamuttavam. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. Shri Paradu Vacha Matir Krishna Parataksatova Mito Upatyeta Grihavatana Adansa Goge Shatata Nisram Pura Punascharvitacharana. Prahlad Maharaj replied, because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress towards hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations toward Krishna are never aroused, either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by a combination of both. Nateva du swarthagatam hi Vishnu Rachalaye bahir arkavanina Andayatantare upaniyamanas Tehi shatantram urudam hibhakta. Persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similar blind man attached to external sense objects cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead. Go ahead. I don't know where we are, but I'll catch up.
And engage in the service of Lord Vishnu as blind men guided by another.
As a blind man guided by another blind man.
Last line.
Fall into a ditch, which are attached and which are made very strong cords, and they continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering threefold miseries. Last one. Naisha Batista Vadurukramam Krim Sprisharthanartha Bhagamo Yadartha Mahiyasamparajopisika Vishtikshananavramikayava. Unless they smear on their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, completely freed from material contamination. A person is very much inclined toward materialistic life, cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified for his uncommon activities, only by becoming Krishna conscious, taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. In this way, can one be free from material contamination. Guru Puja. Shariya Vaishnava Seva Vistara Kaya Chedeva. Shariya Vaishnava Seva Vistara Kaya Chedeva. Namasheshnam Manamapi Shachiputram Atra Sarupam Shirupam Tasyadrajam Urupari Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramoho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Patita Kripaya Shri Guru Tam Tosmi. Hey Guru Jnanada Dinabando Swanandada Takoranayaka Sindho Vrindavana Smina Hitavata Prasida Radha Pranaya Kuchala. Hey Dinabando Koranayaka Sindho Guru Prasada Mahimanda Mudhe Daksha Parade Bahupapagate Tatpada Padme Stuvatishta Krishna Yadyapi Amar Guru Chaitanya Das Tatapi Janya Ani Tanhara Prakash Guru Krishna Rupahana Shashraya Pramani Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Karina Bhaktigane Shiksha Guru Keta Jani Krishnera Sarupa Antaryani Bhakta Sheshta Edui Rupa Naivo Payantya Pachitim Kavayasta Desha Rama Shapi Kritam Ridam Dasvaranta Yotar Bahistanu Bratam Ashubham Vadunvam Acharya Chaitya Vapusha Swagatim Vyanati. Without serving the representative of Krishna, nobody can approach Krishna. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master. By whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachi Mata, the association of Srila Surup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, and his older brother Sanatana Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, divine Radha Kunda, Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. Although I know that my spiritual master is a servitor of Sri Chaitanya, I know him also as a plenary manifestation. Wait, go back. Every living entity is eternally a servant of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Therefore, the spiritual master cannot be other than a servant of Lord Chaitanya. The spiritual master's eternal occupation is to expand the service of the Lord by training disciples in a service attitude. According to the deliberate opinion of all revealed scriptures, the spiritual master is not different from Krishna. Lord Krishna, in the form of the spiritual master, delivers his devotees. The relationship of a disciple with the spiritual master is as good as his relationship with the Supreme Lord. Spiritual masters always represent themselves as the humblest servitors of the personality of Godhead, but the disciple must look upon the spiritual master as a manifested representation of Godhead. One should know the instructing spiritual master to be the personality of Krishna. Lord Krishna manifests himself as the supersoul and as the greatest devotee of the Lord. The initiating spiritual master is a personal manifestation of Srila Madan Mohan Vigraha, whereas the instructing spiritual master is a personal representation of Sri Govindadev Vigraha. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Rama, for you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which you can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. With his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic raiment emanates, by whom ignorance is destroyed. Vague scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and Master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet, the fame to spit all of the three worlds. Sri Guru Charan Padma Kevala Bhakti Satna. Saraswate Devi Gauravani Prachari Ne Shesha Shunyavani Pashtacharisakari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gadadhar Srivasadi Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jayo Vishnupat Paramhamsa Prajapacharya Sto Kadashta Shimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayo Vishnupat Paramhamsa Prajapacharya Sto Kadashta Shimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gokopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavadam Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Sambeta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. Gaur Premanande Haribol. Srimad Bhagavatam class.
No, it just centered them. Like you see, there's so much
Chandra Kurumate Bush. Yoga. Oh, Shakti. 428.51. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Today we'll be discussing verse 4, 28, 51 from the Srimad Bhagavatam. 51 is Tatra purvatara kashchit Sakha brahmana atmavan Santvayan valguna samna Tam aha rudatim prabho. Please chant. Tatra purvatara kashchit Sakha brahmana atmavan Santvayan valguna samna Vaishnavis.
Tatra purvatara kashchit
Tatra purvatara kashchit
Sakha brahmana atmavan
Sakha brahmana atmavan
Santvayan valguna samna
Santvayan valguna samna
Tamaha rudatim bravo.
Tatra. In that place. Purvatara. Previous. Kashchit. Someone. Sakha. Friend. Brahmana. A Brahman. Atmavan. Very learned scholar. Santvayan. Pacifying. Valguna. By very nice. Samna. Mitigating words. Tam. Unto her. Aha. He said. Rudatim. While she was crying. Prabho. My dear king. Translation. My dear king, one Brahmana who was an old friend of King Puranjana came to that place and began to pacify the queen with sweet words. Purport. The appearance of an old friend in the form of a Brahmana is very significant. In his Paramatma feature, Krishna is the old friend of everyone. According to Vedic injunction, Krishna is sitting with the living entity side by side. According to the Shruti mantra, Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakaya. The Lord is sitting within the heart of every living entity as Suhrit, the best friend. The Lord is always eager to have the living entity come back home, back to Godhead. Sitting with the living entity as witness, the Lord gives him all chances to enjoy himself materially, but whenever there is an opportunity, the Lord gives good counsel and advises the living entity to abandon trying to become happy through material adjustment, and instead turn his face toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrender unto Him. When one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is tantamount to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As explained before, this means meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the instruction of the spiritual master. This is technically called Vani Seva. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states in his Bhagavad Gita commentary on the verse Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana, Bhagavad Gita 241, that one should serve the words of the spiritual master. The disciple must stick to whatever the spiritual master orders. Simply by following on that line, one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, appeared before the queen as a Brahmana. But why didn't he appear in his original form as Sri Krishna? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that unless one is very highly elevated in loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot see him as he is. Nonetheless, if one sticks to the principles enunciated by the spiritual master, somehow or other he is in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the Lord is in the heart, he can advise a sincere disciple from within. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Tesham satata yukdanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tang yenamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. In conclusion, if a disciple is very serious to execute the mission of the spiritual master, he immediately associates with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by Vani or Vapu. This is the only secret of success in seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead of being eager to see the Lord in some bush of Vrindavan, while at the same time engaging in sense gratification, if one instead sticks to the principle of following the words of the spiritual master, he will see the Supreme Lord without difficulty. Srila Bilva Mangal Thakur has therefore said, Bhaktistvai stirataya bhagavan yadi syar, daivena na palati divya kashori murti, mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate sman, dharmartha kama gadaya samaya pratiksha. If I am engaged in devotional service unto you, my dear Lord, then very easily can I perceive your presence everywhere. As far as liberation is concerned, I think that liberation stands at my door with folded hands, waiting to serve me. And all material conveniences of dharma, religiosity, artha, economic development, and kama, sense gratification, stand with her. Krishna Karnamrita 107. If one is very highly advanced in devotional service, he will have no difficulty in seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one engages in the service of the spiritual master, he not only sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but attains liberation. As far as material conveniences are concerned, they automatically come, just as the maidservants of a queen follow the queen wherever she goes. Liberation is no problem for the pure devotee, and all material conveniences are simply awaiting him at all stages of life. I offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to Shri Shri Panchatattva, and to all the assembled devotees. Vansha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhabhya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Now let's see. First of all, who's the person who can get air in this room as much as possible? Cross ventilation, more air movement, more oxygen. Second of all, let's see who can ask a really good question based on this verse. Did one pop up in your mind already from hearing it? If so, please feel free to ask and you can start the conversation.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for this purport. We read in the purport that one who is performing devotional service, he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead everywhere. So, what does it really mean? Because we see Krishna's representations, but we do not see Krishna personally. So, how do we understand?
Prabhupada gives an example that if you have a child and you're attached to the child, which is natural, and you drive up to your home and you're wondering if your child is home from school or not, and let's say it's your daughter, and you look and you see her little shoes on the porch, then by seeing the shoes, you immediately have this heart palpitation. Oh, my beautiful little daughter's home. You see her special red shoes she likes to wear on Fridays. And oh, my daughter's home. You haven't seen your daughter, you've seen her shoes. But because of a connection through affection By seeing the shoes, then you think immediately of your daughter. And those who are in service, for instance, those who have developed this desire to give Krishna consciousness to others, which is Krishna's ultimate instruction. He says those whose preoccupation is figuring out how to teach the Bhagavad Gita, the tenets of the Bhagavad Gita to others, they see every situation as an opportunity for imparting devotional service to others. Those who have experienced the internal potency of Krishna by going out, as another example, which you may be able to relate to, and distributing books to people, may, when driving down the street, be looking left and right thinking, oh, that guy would take. Oh, what about that person? They're getting away. Or that would be a good strip mall. I'd go door to door there. They're not seeing an ordinary city. They don't just drive through and think, oh, this is boring. They're thinking, okay, Lord Chaitanya has consolidated all these apartment buildings and streets and cities, gathering places, just for Sankirtan. And in the context of that, a devotee would see Krishna, think of Lord Chaitanya, and think of the order, every town and village, and see Krishna in that. And what's more, when Krishna talks about himself in the Bhagavad Gita, he describes how, when we look at the world in general, we'll see his vibhutis, or his opulences, and then think of him. For instance, in the Gita he says, Punyo ganda prativyam cha, tejas chasmi vibhavaso, jivanam sarvabhuteshu tapas chasmi tapasvishu. One of my favorites is the smell of the earth, which can come in various ways. One way is in the first rainfall, after a long time. If you have the good fortune of walking outside just after it's rained, and that smell, yes? Yes. And, oh, that's Krishna. And then probably gives another example of how the flower, which this morning had the fortune of receiving a little sniff of the flower Vijay Prabhu was taking around, and he snuck up on me and put the flower there, and I smelled the gardenia. What is that smell? It's highly unusual. It's a pleasant, I think, one of the most pleasant smells on the earth. I have a predisposition to like gardenias because I remember them from the old days when I was a kid. But that smell is something you can't reproduce in a laboratory. It's natural smell of the earth extracted by Krishna's engineering that he would bring it out. So one may then think about flowers and how then one looks around and sees flowers and thinks, which ones can I get to offer to Krishna? This is in service, and you just don't see flowers, but you see which ones can I take. Of one of my godbrothers, wherever I go with him, he's always looking out the window because he has this way of looking for flowers in every neighborhood, and he'll go back later when it's dark. So always see, everyone else is looking at road signs or which direction to go, and he's scoping out where are the flowers. I'll go back later, and what's his intention? I'm going to offer them to Krishna. So when one's engaged in service, there's a way in which everything becomes connected to Krishna, and Prabhupada gives this overall guidance that one should see the entire universe as paraphernalia to be used in Krishna's service. And that's the practical way in which, by following the path of service, one sees Krishna within everything. Yes. Mukharavind and then Bali Prabhu.
Thank Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. And this reminds us that the last year we had the Govardhan reading of this same canto, and we were discussing this section, and it reminded me of that whole that scene. The question I had, that there's one of the line Prabhupada very emphatically says that when we try to follow when we are serious for the mission to follow the spiritual master, that is tantamount to serve the Krishna. So my question is that I'm
Tantamount to what?
tantamount to see the Krishna.
To seeing Krishna.
Seeing Krishna.
Yes.
So my question is that I'm a neophyte devotee, and maybe I may not be able to follow completely. So what are the different levels of following the spiritual master is, and what is the good level to be at least, and from where we can rise to the higher levels? So if you can just describe different levels to follow the spiritual master.
One level is that one becomes acquainted with the mood and mission and the likely ways in which one's spiritual master wants to do service, and before the spiritual master asks, because of that awareness, is already ready before the spiritual master asks for it. That's considered the best. Second best is when the spiritual master asks for something, then one's immediately ready to deliver it. Third is that one is asked to do it and then does it begrudgingly. And the last class, which is not service at all, is one neglects altogether the order of the spiritual master and just does something else. Those are the 4 classes of service. And you may notice, as I've seen sometimes, in the context, for instance, of those who have served the personal body of the spiritual master. I saw some of Prabhupada's servants, and I've seen other exalted Vaishnavas with their servants, that the servitor will be just watching, and even if Prabhupada would move his hand, then I know what that means, he wants water, and he brings, before he has excuse me, I want water. They're tuned in. So, another instance, I remember in 1975 in Los Angeles when Prabhupada had called all of his leaders from around the world. It means they all had to fly into Los Angeles. He had a specific request for everyone at that time, and he wanted everyone there personally present. And so Los Angeles was packed full, and you can see the video of this, of devotees locally and from everywhere else. People would drive down from San Francisco or wherever else, and leaders had flown in. And if you watch, and Prabhupada's giving his Bhagavatam class, everyone's leaning in. What does Prabhupada want us to do now? And Prabhupada had built that suspense just so he could lean in and say, distribute as many books in as many languages all over the world. And in that way, the Krishna consciousness movement will expand automatically. And the devotees were ready to hear. They wanted to hear, what's the instruction? What's next? What do you want me to do now? Attentiveness to that. And final observation, although we could say more, Srila Prabhupada had been an exemplar of following the order of his spiritual master. His spiritual master told him, if you ever get money, print books. He told him that don't get bogged down by infrastructure and get distracted. It had happened to the Gaudiya Math, and his spiritual master had expressed some concern, more than concern. He was disappointed that some of his disciples had taken a different mood and had not been in the preaching spirit. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta told his disciple, Abhay Charanaravinda, that concentrate on this. And Prabhupada said, so I took this up from his mouth, that he liked books. And the first thing Prabhupada did when he got any money, which was scarce as hen's teeth at that time, he put it towards purchasing a small house where he could put a printing press and reinforce the floor. The construction he did was to accommodate the printing press, and the purchase he made was for a printing press, because his order from his spiritual master was, if you ever get money, print books. So you can follow Prabhupada's trajectory and all of the ways that he established programs. For instance, the Bhakti Shastri was his spiritual master's idea, so he presented it. Prabhupada wanted diorama and art. This was one of his spiritual master's ideas to show to the world. And Prabhupada also had the mood of his spiritual master, which is yena tena pakarena mana Krishna deveshayat, that first of all, help people to remember Krishna. Second of all, you can bring up all kinds of rules and regulations. So you can watch Prabhupada's adherence to the mood and mission of his spiritual master and see what he was doing. And then you can also hear that he said, this is my only qualification. And this is why I'm successful. He'll say over and over again that people say, I'm doing so many things. He said, I'm only following the order of my spiritual master. And it's by that potency that I'm able to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. One who's enveloped oneself in the order of the spiritual master, Prabhupada writes in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, is enveloped by none other than the internal potency of the Lord. And he goes on to say a similar point, make a similar point, which is, it's by that particular potency that one comes to see Krishna face to face. It's practical because we can't just go to Vrindavan and, as Prabhupada said in the purport, try to see Krishna in every bush. But we can be spiritually entrepreneurial and find out what the order was from our acharya and the specific ways in which we can serve a Vaishnav, serve under a Vaishnav, and adhere to a particular instruction, and not jump here, there, and everywhere. And by doing that, then going deeply within that instruction, there's an expansive engagement for the devotee, which brings one multiple spiritual benefits. Shushusho shradhanasya vasudeva kataruchi syan mahatseveya viprapunya tirtanishevana. By serving a Vaishnav, and one naturally develops an affinity for hearing and chanting, which means advancement in devotional service. All good fortune comes from this. I hope that helps. Bali Prabhu? Oh yes, you wanted to follow up. Okay, Bali and then Anapayani.
Krishna Hare Hare. So, Maharaj, the fourth class you told about like the one who is like neglectful of the spiritual master's desire and everything. So what is the boundary that decides because of our some circumstantial situation, or when we are going through certain situation in the life, we may not be able to follow, or it looks like that we are neglecting. So what are the guidelines, or what are the criteria are there that we are not neglectful, but it's circumstantially we are not able to do?
Well, first of all, it doesn't apply to you at all. Just in case you were thinking at any chance. You're the least neglectful person I've ever met. And when one has a life situation that makes it difficult to fully embrace the order, then one should incubate the order within one's heart. Prabhupada said he kept the order of his spiritual master, which he received instantaneously upon meeting him, because as he described, he hadn't even risen fully from offering his obeisances in the first time he ever saw Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, you should spread this to the Western culture. And Srila Prabhupada, after some expression of his doubts about how that could be done and having them removed, then said when he walked out of there, he had accepted that was his goal in life, is to take up that order. And he said he couldn't do it for a long time. He was already ensconced in family life and business. So he didn't have the freedom. And it was it was a slightly different culture at that time too. Prabhupada, in order to go out, preach, travel all over the world, there was a sense of one had to take sannyas, and Prabhupada wasn't eager for that. He was young, he was with family, but that desire within his heart remained. And he kept it. And so he said, you can keep it there in an incubation. You can't neglect it, but you can keep it and incubate it. And there's a lot to be said for timing in life. The timing came for Prabhupada. If you're in a life of preparation, then the ideal service that you've inherited from your spiritual master, it'll come at the right time. So you keep it. And this is Prabhupada's example. So you can prepare as much as possible in the situation you're in, and then when the time is right, you can expand your service. Does that help? Okay. Bali and then Anapayini.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks, everyone. These are great questions.
Thank you, first of all. My compliments. When I was coming from New Vrindavan, Vaisesika Prabhu chanted the Prahlad's prayer, nursing prayer. So amazing. Chandrasekhar Maharaj, Prabhupada disciple, his godbrother, he was also complimenting me in the airport. I said, not only this, there are many prayers, his treasure house in the mind. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. And as Kotakarna Prabhu mentioned, I was just reading the same verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. We can maybe get the purport. So, Sthabara Jangama dekhe tara murti, sarvatra haya nija ishtadeva sfurti. So, it's Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhyalila, I think 8.171 or 271 something. So, it means that wherever a Mahabhagavat sees a form, a car, a tree, a building, he doesn't see that form. Rather, he sees the form of his Ishtadeva, means his own, the Lord, the Supreme Lord in anywhere. Then Prabhupada actually very nicely explained in the purport that for us, we should start with Rasoham Kunteya. Or then you can say Bhumi Apanalo Vayu. He gave the gradation that you can start with this because he cannot imitate a Mahabhagavat like everywhere. So that's why even though if you wanted to try to forcefully, sometime we forcefully, I want to see Krishna, I see Mukharbinda as a body, to be very honest. That he has 2 eyes, he has a hair, he is a corporate engineer. That we see it. It's very hard to see the level we go deeper. But we don't need to artificially say, but Prabhupada said, this is what we can see as a topmost devotees and what we can see in a bottom one, but still we can understand the gradation.
Very important citation from Shastra. Thank you, Bali Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anapayini. Bhakti.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was wondering what makes the spiritual master's instruction or order a potent, medium, or direct way to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
I was speaking earlier about Krishna's intention. Imagine how powerful our intention is. I've thought about relationships and how what we really want to know in our relationship is, does the person really like or love me? What's his or her intention? If you discover that the intention was something other than open-hearted love or appreciation or gratitude, then it takes a lot off of it, of the gesture. And then we can understand how perceptive we are of others' intentions in this world. In fact, the whole legal system is based only on this, my argument. It's to figure out, they put people through a panel and they say, what did you intend to do here? Was it a mistake? Did you do it unconsciously? Did you mean to do this? And depending on how much the person used their free will, fully knowing and did something to that degree, it's either considered to be meritorious or not. If you accidentally gave money to people because it fell off your truck, you're not considered to be benevolent. But if you pulled over the side of the road and you started handing it out to people who needed it, then you're labeled benevolent because you meant to do it. I'm bringing this up as the foundation for answering the question because devotional service is personal. Krishna is a person and he has intention. By extension, thinking, how powerful is an individual's intention in our life? Our parents' intention for us, a friend's intention, a teacher's intention, or any random person that we meet, what is their intention towards us, makes such a difference. Think how powerful Krishna's intention is. Then, if we can ascertain, and one should be able to ascertain, it's not unknowable. In fact, Krishna says, Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam. Although some people consider God a secret, he said, I'm right here, you know. I'm speaking right now. I'm talking. So there's a way in which Krishna expresses his intention. And you could look at the disciplic succession as a way in which Krishna has expressed his personal intention to Brahma. And Brahma then passed on, and this is Krishna's intention. Look at the 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto. Vyasadeva did a lot of service, and then his spiritual master adjusted it a little bit and said, I know what you're trying to do here, but Krishna's intention is a little different. Adjust it more. And there's a way in which that intention is the essence of the parampara. It's not so much the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law that counts. And when you're able to meet somebody who's been in association with those who have imbibed the intention of Krishna, it's subtle. And they've also then imbibed that same sense for this is what Krishna wants. And they give an instruction based on that. For instance, Prabhupada said, the main point, he gave 7 ideas. Here's 7 purposes. And they're all based on this intention of Krishna. You can match up whatever he said in Shastra. And you can match up the way that he presented it with the way that his guru presented it, and the spirit of it was there, which is the world is an opportunity for us, well, it's an opportunity for all of us to change our decision and then decide to serve Krishna. So we're offering that to everyone. So those who are connected to that sense of Krishna's intention in the line of association through the parampara, and then give it to others, are giving the most valuable substance, which is the essence of Krishna's intention. So that order then becomes imbued with that intention. And if we take it up, then we're also connected to it. There's a poetical verse from Prithu Maharaj where he talks about how somebody whose life is fully dedicated to Krishna, when such a person speaks, the vibration is different because it's aligned. And that's also the topic of the 87th chapter of the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, the prayers personified Vedas. So how do you transmit spiritual sound through a material medium? Isn't it? It's a good question. It's been asked apparently, as we find from that chapter. Oh yeah, somebody else asked that question. Someone else before them asked it. We've been discussing that a lot. And it comes down to Krishna's a person. He's got an intention, and those who are aligned with that, and then who speak on his behalf with no ulterior motive, then pass on that spiritual potency that comes from Krishna. Intention is powerful. Krishna's intention is the most powerful. Those who avail themselves to Krishna's intention through disciplic succession and pass it on to others carry a kind of potency. And when we take that, then we'll also directly experience the current that comes from Krishna, a spiritual energy. And no matter who we are, where we come from, what position we're in now, if we intentionally carry on the teachings, Krishna's teachings, without ulterior motive, then we'll also be connected to that current, and we'll also be potent in giving it to other people. That's my final answer. Hare Krishna. Thanks for asking. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And where's Vaikuntha? I don't see him. It's a dull day without Vaikuntha Prabhu. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for the beautiful answers. What is the ulterior motive one can have? We just mentioned, right, the ulterior motive. Can you tell us more about the ulterior motives one can have?
Look up the word ulterior, please. Motive is subtle, but it's practically identical to intention. What's motivating one to do something? And there are various levels of motivation. One is categorically based on what's good for me. And just to keep in two categories, the other category is what's good for my service to Krishna. Or, translated another way, what's good for Krishna? What's pleasing to his senses? And Prahlad Maharaj says, Naivatmana prabodhayam nijalabhapurnam manam jano avidusa karano vranite yad yajjano bhagavati kam manam tachchatmane pratimukasya yata mukashri. When one's motivation is to please Krishna's senses, then one naturally becomes nourished and satisfied. And when we have a personal motive, for instance, there's a difference if one's chanting Hare Krishna, says Sanatana Goswami, and one thinks that I am Krishna. And thinking that by chanting this mantra, I'm going to merge into my rightful, or I'll assume my rightful position once I'm uncovered of being Krishna or God. And one who's chanting with a sense that I'm tiny, servant of the servant of Krishna, and I'm chanting Hare Krishna because I love Krishna. And I'm grateful to Krishna, not that I'm chanting because I am Krishna. Those are two different things. Two different motives for chanting Hare Krishna. One may also take something off the power of chanting, as giving an example of, for instance, chanting Hare Krishna and from one's heart glorifying Krishna, and chanting a kirtan. You're saying the Maha Mantra and the syllables, but if somebody listens more carefully, they may hear, look at me, look at me, look at me, everybody look at me. It's not as satisfying to the chanter, what to speak of others. Prabhupada had sometimes stopped kirtans, noticing something like that. So it's everything, really. Again, it goes to intention, motive. What's ulterior mean?
Ulterior, it means existing beyond what is obvious or admitted, intentionally hidden. It comes from mid 17th century Latin, which means and it's ulterior, which means further or more distant.
More distant. Many of us in a Guru Puja in Jagannath Puri once, and Rajendra Nandana Prabhu led the kirtan, and musically, rhythmically, I wouldn't say that it would be rated on that level to be the topmost Guru Puja ever. But the devotees burst into tears listening to him to chant. He chanted with such intensity, and it was so obvious that he was chanting from his heart that the devotees couldn't stop themselves. They were looking around like, are you crying? Oh, I'm crying too. And there's a marked difference in the sound of somebody's voice. Sound carries consciousness. It comes out in the sound that we make. Whatever's in our heart gets broadcast everywhere. So Prithu Maharaj said, when somebody's heart is pure and the motive is pure, when they say something, when they speak about Krishna, he said, their sound vibration, poetically now, the vibration touches Krishna's lotus feet. Krishna's lotus feet, for those who are fortunate enough to have served Krishna's lotus feet, and we do have the opportunity to serve the deity form, you make little chandan. You have a wooden stone, flat. In fact, I have one in the car and I need a little help later. And you have a chandan stick, and you put a little pure rose water and some pure camphor, and then you grind it, and it makes a paste. They don't have that at Salesforce, just saying. And you take it's nice to apply with a marigold. They're kind of compact, it's easy to use. You dip a little bit in, and you can dab it on Krishna's lotus feet. I forgot, other ingredient is saffron. That's also in my bag. A little saffron, all you need is one strand. Saffron's so potent. The fragrance of pure gulab, that means rose, not fake, the real thing. Pure camphor, not fake camphor, don't use that. A little saffron and sandalwood, and I found out yesterday there's 3 grades of sandalwood, 1, 2, and 3. You grind it up into a paste. It's otherworldly, and it's meant to dab on Krishna's lotus feet. So there it is. Then a tulsi. Put a tulsi leaf there. That's sublime. Say yes. Yes. Yeah. And then when somebody wants to please Krishna, they have no other motive. Prithu Maharaj says, that vibration, it contacts Krishna's lotus feet, and that mixture, it mixes with the sound of that person's voice. Then when you hear it, what is that? It just changed my decision in life. I was thinking that I would slog it out another lifetime and try to, as Prabhupada says in the purport here, try to adjust again to the threefold miseries. But by hearing that vibration, it's so sweet for somebody whose motive is attuned with his or her spiritual master, therefore the intention to only serve Krishna, all Krishna. It's not for me. It's not for my aggrandizement. It's just, I want to serve Krishna. That vibration is mixed with saffron mercy particles, says Prithu Maharaj. When you hear it, then you say, okay, I get it. I understand it. And I want to also follow that path of the pure devotees. That's the difference. Okay, we said 1, 2. Who was next? 3. Vaikunta Nayaka came back? Oh, that's good. Okay, who's next? I don't see his hand up yet, but we'll wait. Go ahead. Now it's a bona fide Saturday morning.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for those wonderful answers. I have a question at the last part of the purport where Prabhupada says that all material conveniences are simply awaiting a pure devotee at every step. But throughout the Shastras, we have seen that seemingly materially inconvenient situations is what the pure devotees face. So how do we understand those 2 points?
Really, the so-called inconveniences that devotees face are only an opportunity for them to take deeper shelter of Krishna. We know that from Kunti's prayers, where she says, Vipada santutasasvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yatsyad apunar bhavadarshanam. She said, I don't mind these inconveniences, although they've been severe, because every time, she notes, it's been an opportunity for me to be more closely connected with you. In fact, do you know the worst hellish planet mentioned in the Bhagavatam? There are hellish conditions in the material world. We're right in the middle, so you get half and half. We're exactly in the middle of the solar system, but you know where the worst hellish planet is? It's subterranean hellish planets. There's a hellish planet that's more heavenly than even heaven. And it's so heavenly that people never remember God. Because that's their desire, and Krishna fulfills the desires of every living entity. And there, everything goes right. So you don't think of God at all. And that's considered the worst hellish condition. So your question, the devotees, like Sudama, when he went to see Krishna in Dwarka, his wife urged him. That's what wives help with a lot. It's like, hey, try to take care of yourself. They're thinking, you're not taking care of yourself. And she suggested that, why don't you go see Krishna? And even that hint that there might be this idea that I'm going to ask him for something, he didn't like that. But he thought, well, she's urging me to go see Krishna. It must be Krishna's arrangement. I'm going to go see Krishna. And she said, take a gift. And we have nothing. Borrowed from the neighbors a little hard rice. And then tied it in one of his raggedy claws. And he went there. And as you all know, he met Krishna. And Krishna knew that he had brought a gift. And then he snatched it from him because Sudama was unwilling to hand it over. Krishna took one palmful, and then Rukmini, goddess of fortune, said, "No, don't take another." For various reasons. One reason was that I'm so indebted already that he's given this gift, even though unwillingly, that I don't know if I can bestow enough opulence on him. And then he went home and he was walking back, and the thought process he had was very instructive, because he thought, I'm so lucky Krishna didn't give me anything, because I'm so puffed up, I would have taken advantage of it and I would have forgotten him. Then when he got back and he found out that Krishna had bestowed unimaginable opulence upon him, then he thought, well, I'll just use it all in Krishna's service. And practically, even though he had everything, he just used it for serving Krishna. And Krishna, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, had given him such opulence because he felt that Sudama was attached to being unattached. So he wanted to balance out his situation a little more. Every devotee there's a different way in which it's very personal, how Krishna deals with each devotee. His full intention is to give him what's best for him so that he can be happy and engage in service, and he gives facility accordingly. As far as we're concerned, when we serve Krishna, we can see that we're taking advantage of every facility he gives us. One way to look at the way Krishna gives us facility is to examine whether or not I'm fully utilizing what he's already given. Sometimes we think, oh, I can't have more. What's your motive for more? Are you using what you have right now fully in his service? That can be our preoccupation. What I've seen, according to Krishna's statement in the Bhagavad Gita, Nanyas chintayanto mam yejana paripasite tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshema bahamyaham, which means that Krishna's saying, if you dedicate your consciousness to me, just in service, don't worry, I'll carry what you lack and preserve what you have. I quit high school. Just saying. I didn't care. I really didn't care. Everyone in my family went to school. My parents were both PhDs, and I didn't care. All I cared was Hare Krishna. And I'm not bragging, but if I look at my life compared to any of my siblings, any of my friends, anybody, practically anywhere, I can't imagine a better life. And I just didn't care. I just said, Hare Krishna, please open the door, let me in. And when I got in there, I thought, this is where I want to live. And I've never really ever wanted for anything, ever. And I never worked. I never had a job interview. So I've just seen it in my life. And also as far as spiritual desires go, I could imagine, for me, a better situation than having all of your association. Nirkul and I almost daily look at each other and said, how did this happen? How do we get in the association of such exalted devotees? We're just practically vagabonds, but somehow or other we're surrounded now. It's all Krishna's arrangement. And as far as service goes, we have so much service that any direction we turn is hey, you want some more? There's nothing lacking, ever. So one can experience in one's own life that if you adhere to the order of the spiritual master, yes, there may be times when there's anxiety or you feel that you have to make adjustments in your life. But as Prabhupada noted, even during the pandemic in 1920, there was 1920? Yeah. Talking back, not 2020, 1920. My grandmother died in that pandemic in 1920. And Prabhupada said he saw bodies piled up everywhere, but all the Vaishnavas he knew were still in blissful consciousness. They weren't affected by it. The devotees aren't affected by the material world so much. So there's a way in which, if we observe carefully and we're grateful, we can see Krishna provides whatever we need. Okay. I better hurry up because we're winding down on time. We have about 7 minutes left.
Thank you, Maharaj. Please accept my sincere obeisances. Thank you for dedicating the time for question and your deep answers. My question is about how should we have the faith that spiritual master is a representative of Krishna and they have committed to take us back to Godhead?
Look at the paperwork and just observe. For instance, if a representative comes over from Salesforce to sign a contract with it, you look at which kind of paperwork did you bring us? Is it straightforward? Does it have the corporate seal on it? Is it the opportunity that says it is? And in a very straightforward way, you can see if someone brings you an opportunity, you can match it up and say, does this match with what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the ultimate pramanam? Spiritual master says, try to save souls. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, no one's more dear to me than somebody who goes out and teaches the message of Bhagavad Gita. It's a good match. So it's not some mystery. It's very straightforward if you, as Prabhupada points out, in a conversation, a morning walk, where Jayadvaita Maharaj is asking about, how is it that the spiritual master is perfect, he said. And very boldly he's asking, because a lot of people wanted to know, he said, we see the spiritual masters wearing glasses. So how is that perfect? He said, we see sometimes the spiritual master may forget a verse. How's that perfect? Prabhupada said, no, you don't understand what perfection means. It means that the spiritual master is sincerely engaged in the movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and is carrying it out. And as far as one's personal relationship goes, how do you discern that anyone cares for you? It takes a while. Trust builds over time in relationships. It's the most valuable, I said intention is the most valuable in substance, but anyway, they're right up there both. Trust. It's so essential for our happiness in life, in our relationships. It's also, it takes a long time to build trust, but generally in relationships over time, seeing consistency and watching someone and developing a sense of who they are, a composite. You see in different angles, different circumstances and so forth, then isn't it? I mean, if you're around somebody every day or regularly and then you see, oh, how did they react to this? What was their... You develop a natural composite and a sense of this is what I can expect from the person. Then there can be a sense of also appreciation, then it can be gratitude, then honor, that type of thing. It's not artificial. So those two things, what is the straightforward mission of a person who's representing the Sampradaya? You can check it. Is it in line with what the Sampradaya teaches? And number two, what about the individual? Get to know somebody and understand what is their heart. We're good at that as living entities. We can sense, we have this very powerful kind of sensitivity to what's in people's hearts. You don't know immediately sometimes, but after you've investigated over a long period of time, you start to develop trust. And Prabhupada said this movement is based on that, love and trust. That's all I can say for now, because I only had a few minutes left, and I have to answer more quickly. Otherwise, I'll be in really big trouble. Who do we have? Dhanavari's there. Okay, Dhanavari, go ahead. Vaikuntha Nayaka, we've been waiting for you. How's that, Dhanavari? That's Subhadra. Okay. Dhanavari, go ahead. I'll answer quickly. Ask quickly.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Very nice. Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I just want thank you for everything you do, Prabhu. And quickly, since we don't have much time left, when you mentioned about Rajendrananda Prabhu's like talk and kirtan, and I just want to let you know that his wife, Chatura Mataji, always, I meet her often and I never get chance to convey her message. So she always says that please give her, give my obeisances to Nirukula Mataji and you. So she's very grateful and she gets tears in her eyes when she remembers you and Nirukula Mataji. So thank you so much, and I just wanted to convey her message.
Thanks, Dhanavari. It's made my
Thank
day.
you.
He was a godbrother of ours, and we were very close with him for various reasons, which I won't go into now. Now we come to Vaikuntha Nayaka. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Dandavats, Maharaj, for your pleasure. Just had one realization. On the shloka that we read, there is a comment Prabhupada writes about Vani Seva. So just, and how, and the exact words are, one should serve the words of the spiritual master. This morning I was hearing one other class of some other temple, and the devotee was lamenting that he does not get enough time with his guru. But then this this actually Prabhupada is saying right here, and just three examples came to my mind. One is that even Ramanujacharya, he used to visit one temple in one village in South India, give an instruction, and the disciple used to hold on to that instruction forever, for entire life, and not knowing whether when if he will again be able to see his Guru Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada also, I think he hardly met his Guru Maharaj for not more than 5-6 times. Maybe the net duration of the time that he met must not have been more than some 4-5 hours. But he just stuck, he just held on to that advice, to that instruction of uh, if you get money, print books. And and the third example is Your Grace, that I don't think you also had a lot of association, physical association with Srila Prabhupada. You keep telling about how you Srila Prabhupada met you and other Sankirtan devotees once, and he instructed to. That he asked, "Are you also reading my books?" And how you took that to heart, reading Srila Prabhupada's books and giving out his books. So you have shown by your personal example how to stick to this Vani Seva, even though you might not have had. So there's nothing to complain about if you don't get close physical association. There's nothing to complain about. Uh, Paramatma is in my heart, and I hope he's actually conveying to you what your disciples are doing. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Haribo, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Vaikuntha Nayaka. Okay. Last is Rasa Sindhu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. A few weeks ago, some of the kids from ISV were at TSI. We were there, so they would recognize my question, Parth and Vaishnavi and Brajras Bhavan and others. We did a workshop on drawing your inner critic and understanding what the inner critic is, and so that it loses the power, the voices it gives us. My inner critic flares up a lot when I hear the orders of my spiritual master, and this imposter syndrome comes into play. That can I do it? Is it even possible for me? And that takes more power over the faith that I have in the words of the spiritual master, and it is paralyzing at times to even move forward. So I don't know if it applies to others, but it is very real and very true for me in this moment, and especially in the last few months. I wanted to see if you have any thoughts and guidance for me.
Well, first of all, you're very capable. And I recognized that the first time I met you at Rupanuga Prabhu's house in Laguna Beach. I thought, here's a most capable person that Krishna is sending to help expand the Sankirtan movement. And I always have that sense of you, that fully capable and sincere. I don't think you need to have any doubt about that. And in a practical way, we do, and I spoke on this yesterday on our corporate program, the masks we wear and the imposter syndrome and so forth. I noticed that it got an unusual amount of views, and usually a large amount of views because it's a real topic. What I find is that we have to give ourselves permission to do the best we can with what we have right now. And I'm noticing the psychology of that also, which is that when I give myself or others the free will to do the best they can with what they have, then they want to do more. There is sometimes an expectation we have on ourselves that is unrealistic, or we don't really know who we are, what we look like, and how we're doing. It's helpful to have those around us who can assure us that we're doing okay, we're better than okay. And it's also helpful to remember the encouraging statements that Prabhupada makes and Krishna makes himself, that, okay, start with, I'm a human. Are you human? Say yes. You can cheer up because Krishna likes you. It says there in the 11th canto that of all the species of life, Krishna especially likes the humans because they have so much potential. I mean, he likes everybody, but... And then, if you're in devotional service, you can consider that Manushyanam sahasreshu kashid yatiti siddhaye. I'm in a very rare position. And if you can learn to appreciate where you are right now and all the assets that you've been given, you get a spring in your step. And it's less likely that you'll be overcome by this high expectation you have on yourself or you think other people have on you. And I personally like to make expectations in any of the sanghas I'm working with, any of the teams, any of the projects that are more natural. For instance, as you know well, in one of the teams you're on, I'd say the purpose for this team is for association and service. Do I not say that regularly? And how do you feel when you find out that's what it's about? It's just an opportunity, excuse, if you like, to have more association and more service. I find it helpful, and as far as book distribution goes, I find, and just giving this as an example, devotees think, oh, I don't want to go out. Well, if I analyze why they don't want to go out, it's because they think they have to perform some magic. And what's everybody going to think of me if I don't perform magic? So we just say, don't worry about it. Don't even go out to distribute books. Just go out because it's fun to go out with others, or it's a nice feeling, exhilarating feeling to walk out into the great unknown. And don't put any expectation on yourself. Just go out there and stand around and see how it feels to be out there. And I find that mostly the devotees say, really? That's not true. We do have to do a circus trick, right? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna. I'm just going out. I even know what's gonna happen. I'm just here. I just feel lucky to be part of this. And then when everyone goes out in that spirit with no expectation, then they overperform and they feel fine. And I think we can help ourselves by redefining what our expectation is every day. And if you have a coach, a significant other, you have association with devotees that are confidential, you could say, I need some encouragement. How am I looking? How am I doing? And they can say, you're fantastic. And it's helpful for somebody to remind us of what we've done and how we're doing. So it's a common experience. And Krishna warns us not to become overwhelmed by it. In the verse, Jata Shrada Matkatasu Nirvina Sarvakarmasu Veda Dukkha Kamkamam Sprityage Pyanishvara Tato Bhajeta Mamprita Shradar Lurdur Nishtaya Jushamanam Shatam Kamams Dukho Darkams Jagarayan. There he recognizes there's this stage in which most people are in because they've started devotional service, seems really exciting, and then they say, oh, I have to swim across the ocean of anartha nivritti. And that's, swimming across an ocean takes a while. And then he says, but don't worry, just keep swimming. Even if you don't have the power to do what you think you should be doing, keep swimming. And then he says, at the end, Dukho Darkams to Garayan. You can have a slight bit of remorse that you're not doing as much as you wanted. He said, but don't overdo it, kid. because you can talk yourself right out of it. You could say, oh, I'm the worst of this and that, and Prabhupada answered, you're not the worst of anything. Don't get ahead of yourself. Just be a natural person and be happy and go on with your service and everything's going to be okay. There's sections where Prabhupada says, if all you do is stay alive, just take a little prasadam and finish your hearing and chanting. Live out your life. You've been a success. Start from that position. Then you can add on a little bit more according to what you can do. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. We're leaving on Monday, Nirkula and me. Usually I leave first, she goes second, so it's especially stressful this time because when I leave before her, I don't care if I forget something. It's like, oh, by the way, I forgot my passport. So we've been in this jam mode. It's kind of instructional because just leaving one's orbit. This is our life and soul here. You're our life and soul here. And leaving here is always, we're acknowledging the austerity. And of course, when we get to another orbit, then we feel natural there. We feel it's important for us at this stage in our life to travel and especially go to the Dham. The point about Prabhupada saying, read my books. This will be our 23rd year of spending the whole Kartik in just Govardhana doing nothing but reading. Except, of course, we do have a little prasadam. And hopefully we'll be fortified by that. We'll definitely be missing you. Remembrances of Kartik here during the pandemic are especially sweet. I thank everyone for all you're doing. It's just so heartfelt to see everyone engage in service and having this opportunity that we have here to be together and ask these questions, read Prabhupada's books, try to distribute them to other people and develop a community that's inviting for lots of people to come. We couldn't be more grateful. I wanted to also express, it's been so spiritually overwhelming, the gathering we had 2 weeks ago when everyone came, and it was noticeably a kind of spiritual resonance that was uplifting, and I'm extremely grateful to all of you for the words of encouragement, the expressions of love, the gifts, that it's in the best sense of the term, drinking from a fire hose. And I'm uplifted by your association, and I'm deeply grateful. And we'll be back around November 20th, ready to get back into everything here. So please take care of one another and take care of yourselves, and just take every day as an opportunity. Be grateful for the opportunity to go on another day in devotional service. Is everyone okay? Yes. Okay. You're better than okay, by the way, but I just thought I'd check. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmana Shringadev, we're eternally grateful to you for gathering us all here in this Silicon Valley so that we can work together as scientists do in a laboratory to invent means to expand the Krishna consciousness movement all over Silicon Valley, all over California, and export whatever works all over the world. We are open to unlimited resources, which we intend to use in your service. We're especially grateful for the devotees who come here in whatever stage of their practice they're in, and we desire to have their association and to help them in every way that we can. And we also pray that we may beat Mayapur. So put it up on the map, because that's where we're going for next. This ISV, mark my words, we're going to be the top book distribution temple in the world. I don't care about per capita, I don't care about differences in prices, but we're going to beat them. Write it down, put it up on a chart, and let's get to work. We want to be the top place on the planet. Okay? Thank you. Vanchakalpadivrisha, Kripasinabhevacha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha, Nantakodi Vaishnaviniki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Haribo. Now we have Queen Kunti. What do we have? Yogirish. We have the Queen Kunti? Okay. If we can move some of these things away. Hey, you came back. I think I'm staying for a little bit.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So as many of you already might know, we spent many of the past months reciting various verses from our Shastras, learning them, memorizing them, in an attempt to deepen our relationship with Krishna, learn the conclusions of Shastra more. And most recently, we focused on Queen Kunti's prayers. Though it has been some time since we visited him, so maybe the first thing we can do is just maybe recite the prayers once, led by Maharaj. Shh.
Oh, I see. Astau siddharami kagra. Vyasuvacha. Kuntivacha. Namaste Purusham Dhadyam Ishvaram Praktiparam Alaksham Sarvabhutanam Antar Bahir Avastitam Maya Javani Kachanan Agnadhoksajam Avyayam Nalakshyase Mudadrisha Nato Natya Daroyata Tata Paramahamsanam Muninamalatmanam Bhakti Yoga Vidhanartham Katham Pashyemahi Striyaha Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanaಭaya Nama Pankajamaniye Nama Pankajanitraya Namaste Pankajandraye Yatha Rishikesha Padena Devaki Kamsena Dukati Shiram Sucharpita Vimochitaham Chasahatmaja Vivo Jayaiva Natera Muhurvapadgana Vishamahadme Gurushara Darshana Asat Samaya Mana Asa Krishnata Rige Nekamaratastato Ramyastratastasmahare Vyakshita Vipada Santukashasva Tatra Tatra Jagatguru Bhavato Darshanam Yatsya Apuradha Darshanam Janmaishvarya Shuta Shri Edamanabadah puman, Naivahatya vitatum vai, Tama kinchana gocharam, Namo kinchana vittaya, Nivritta nurnavittaye, Atmaramaya Shantaya, Kaivalya Pataye Namaha. Manye Tam Kanamishanam, Anadi Nidanam Vibhum, Samam Charantam Sarvatra, Bhutanam Yam Vitakali. Naveda Kaschit Bhagavanscha Kirshitam, Tadeha Manasya Vinam Vidambanam, Vayasya Kaschit Daitosti Padite, Dveshasya Yasmin Vishamamatirvinam, Janma Karma Cha Vishwadman, Ajasya Kartaratmanaha, Tiryan Rishishu Yadusu, Tadakyanta Vidambanam, Gopyadade Tvaya Pitagasidamatavad, Yate Dashashru Kalibanjana Samgramaksham, Vatram Diniya Bhavabhavanayaskitasya, Samam Vimohayati Bhirapi Yadviveti, Kechidahurajam Jatam, Punyashlokasya Kirtaye, Yadho Priyasyam Vavaye, Malayasye Vachandanam, Apade Vasudevasya, Devakyam Yakshito Gyagat, Ajastam Asya Shemaya, Vadaya Cha Suradvisham, Bharavataranayanye, Bhuvo Nava Ivodadao, Siddhantya Buddhi Bhavena, Jato Hyatma Bhuvartitaha, Bhavesnim Krishyamananam, Avidya Kama Karmabhi, Shravana Smaranarhani, Karishyamiti Keshana, Shrivanti Gayanti Granantya Vikshnasa, Smaranti Nandanti Tadehitam Jana, Taeva Pashyantya Vacharena Tavakam, Bhava Pravaho Paramam Padam Bhujam, Apyadyanastam Svakrite Hita Prabho, Chihasasmi Sriksurido Nujivina, Yesham Nachanya Bhavata Padam Bhujat, Pradayanam Rajasuyo Chitam Hasam, Kevayam Nama Rupabhyam, Yadhupi Saha Pandava, Vavato Darshanam Yarhi, Rishikana Viveshitu, Neyam Sobhishyate Tatra, Yate Danim Gadadhara, Tvapadayam Kitabati, Salakshana Valakshitae, Ime Janapadas Vidha, Supakvaushadi Virula, Vanadrina Yudam Vanto, Yedante Tava Vikshitae, Atha Vishvesha Vishvatman, Vishwamurte Sakeshume, Sneha Pasham Imam Chindi, Dridham Pandushu Vrishnishu, Tvaime Nanya Vishaya, Matir Madhu Pase Sakrit, Rakim Udvahatad Adda, Gangeva Udandvati, Shri Krishna Krishna Sakha Vrishni Vrishabhavani Dhru, Rajanya Vamshadhanana Pavargavirya, Govinda Godvija Sarati Haravatara, Yogeshwara Kila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Sutuvacha Vrityat Ekam Kalapadaye Purnyudaya Mandam Chahasa Vaikunto Mohayami Vamaya. Shri Kunti Devi Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. Amazing. All right, so maybe we can do some transitionary things first. Marge, if you'd like, you can maybe transition back. And then if Abhay is there, maybe you can get... Oh, perfect, okay. Yes, 5 chairs. So they're going to be helping us set up for the next portion. The next portion is essentially a game. I've talked to some of the devotees who are level 4 devotees who completed all of the verses, who also learned a good portion of the translations, and we've divided them up into 2 different groups. I'll have each group come up here, and I'll be asking them various questions that are creative, that are focused on the purports, that might also make them think a bit more and deepen their understanding of the verses. So there'll be 2 groups. Maybe I can invite the devotees to come up. First group has Pavani Bhakti Mataji, Anushri, Anamay, Aradhika Anuradha Mataji, and Sukheshwari Mataji. You guys can work together. Yeah. You go ahead. Do we have Aradhya Anuradha Mataji? Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay, so I have various questions prepared here. They're focusing only on the first half of the verses of Queen Kunti's prayers. No one's going to be put directly on the spot. You guys can all work together to answer the questions. Ideally, you want to answer them quicker, faster paced, but there's no pressure. The questions there'll be a variety of questions. Some might be more creative, some might be a bit more focused on the purport. But do your best. If in any case you're not sure about how to answer a verse, we'll come to the audience. If the audience isn't sure, we'll come to Marge. And Arjun's going to be helping me here. He'll be reciting the verse. So you'll be given the verse, the Sanskrit, and then you'll be asked various questions. It could be the translation to do different things. So maybe we can get started. The first verse will be 1:8:22. Arjun, maybe you can, yeah. We'll give him a moment. But to set some context for this, the first question was essentially going to be, you guys are going to have to play charades. So I'm going to have 2 of you can choose, or have to act out the verse, basically. And then whoever wants to act can come over. So Arjun will give you guys, both of you, the verse, and you have to act it out for your teammates. You can work together, yes. Okay, whenever you're ready. You'll have about roughly 30 seconds. Okay, you guys can sit
Nama
down. Yeah.
Pankajanabhaya, Nama Pankajamaline, Nama Pankajanetraya, Namasye Pankajangrahe.
Well, perfect. Right, would any of you happen to recall the translation? Yeah, go ahead, whoever wants to.
So obeisances to the lotus-naveled Lord, Namapankajanabhaya, Namapankajamaline. Obeisances to the lotus-garlanded Lord, Namapankajanetraya. Obeisances to the lotus-eyed Lord, and then Namapankajamaline. The lotus-garlanded Lord.
Yeah, perfect. So as you mentioned, right, there's 4 references to lotuses, right? Krishna is compared and connected to a lotus in 4 different ways. Anyone can answer this question, but is there one particular way that's more meaningful to you, that's more significant to you, and could you share why? So the verse had the word lotus in 4 different ways, in which Krishna is compared to or connected to a lotus. Is there one that's most significant to you, that you resonate with more? And then you can explain why.
For me, when I read the translation, initially I felt like it is like lotus-eyed Lord, but when I read it meant like your glance is as cool as the lotus. That really resonated with me because when we take the darshan, it brings a real joy in heart, and I felt like it was really like as cool as lotus in this glance.
Yeah, go ahead, Srimati.
I was just remembering that, I read in the purport of Srila Prabhupada, may not be in exact this first verse, that the eyes of the Lord are, the eyebrows of the Lord are like the bow, and his eye glance is actually the arrow. So when we look at the Lord, and it is mentioned in the, Prabhupada mentions that when someone is able to actually look into the eyes of the Lord, which is lotus-like, all kinds of lusty desires would go away from us. So I was remembering that part.
Yes, perfect. Those are amazing points. Maybe we can move on to a different verse. The next verse will be 1:825. Arjun, if you could maybe recite the Sanskrit for this verse.
Vipada shantuta shashvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yatsyad apunar bhava darshanam.
Does anyone remember the translation?
So Kunti Marni is saying, let calamities happen again and again. Tattva tattva jagat guru. So, oh Lord of the universe, like let calamities happen again and again. Because bhavato darshanam yatsat, because by seeing you, apunar bhava darshanam, we don't have to take repeated births and deaths again.
Great, exactly. So now imagine you're giving a Bhagavatam class on this verse. Someone in the audience might hear the verse and hear the translation. They might think, what is this saying? Queen Kunti is begging for calamities? Does the Srimad Bhagavatam recommend that we do the same, that we should pray for Krishna for difficulties? How would you want to respond to this?
Queen Kunti is actually asking that she can continue to see Krishna. So that is the most important thing. But then every time she had a calamity, Krishna came. So she doesn't even mind having a calamity if she has to actually, that if that's the way that she can actually see Krishna.
Perfect, exactly. Arjun, could you recite 1:826?
Janmaishvarya shruta shribhir edhamana madhapuman naiva hartya bidhatum vai tvamakinchana gocharam.
Could one of you try to explain the verse in 5 words or less? You can take a second to think about it if you need to. And maybe Arjun, you can give the translation first. That might help.
For that the translation.
1:826.
Okay. My Lord, your lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling.
Any thoughts in 5 words or less?
Oh, is this very specific? It has to be 5 words?
If it's like 6, it's fine. You don't feel so pressured.
Krishna should be your only goal. That's 6.
Perfect. Well, maybe we can go to 1:829. Arjun, if you can give the verse and the translation.
Naveda kaschid bhagavam shrikirshitam tave hamanasya nrinam vidambanam nayasya kaschid dhaitosti karhichid dveshyascha yasmin vishama matirnrinam. O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and so are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial.
Okay, so this verse talks about partiality. People imagine that Krishna is partial. Could you maybe give some commentary on why Krishna is considered impartial?
It's like when the sun is equal to everyone. The sunshine falls also on the barren soil, the stone, and the fertile soil. But it's the recipient who actually, it depends on the recipient. If we are receiving properly, then we get it. If we are like stone, then we will not get it. Krishna's love, yeah.
Exactly. The sun is, if you look outside, it's very sunny. The sun is everywhere, but if someone's not able to receive the sun, then that's where the impartiality is there. Krishna's there giving the sun to everyone equally. That's what, exactly right.
If you decide to sit inside and say sun is not falling on me, it's the problem of the person sitting inside.
Exactly. Perfect. Arjun, maybe we can do 1:8:30, verse and trans. Or sorry, just actually, hold on, pause there. Yeah, maybe do the verse and the translation actually.
Okay. Janma karma cha vishvatman ajasya karturatmanah tiryan rishishu yadhasu tad atyanta vidambanam. Of course it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work, though you are inactive, and that you take birth, though you are the vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend amongst animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering.
Now let's pretend you're on book distribution. You're distributing the teachings of Queen Kunti. And you're sharing this verse to the person you're talking to, and they kind of point out, wow, this verse has a lot of contradictions. The person you're talking to asks, there's a lot of contradiction. How can God be both born and unborn? How can God be an animal or a man? How would you respond to this?
Just like a person, like at work he's a different person, but at home he's a different person. Similarly, his Lord can be.
So we were thinking that when someone asks us that, Krishna can come in any form. His goal is to actually, take the souls back home, back to Godhead. So he can come as a man, he can come as an animal, and he is the supreme. It's his choice. He can decide in whichever direction he wants to go.
Exactly, yeah. So even later in the verses, we see that there's various reasons that Krishna comes down to the planet for different reasons. This morning we were seeing the Shavatara Stotra. There's Narsimhadev, there's Matsyavatara, right? There's so many different forms. But the goal of the Bhagavan is still the same, ultimately, to help the devotees. And then maybe the last one for this group. Arjun, if you could recite 1:8:23 and 1:8:24, and the translations.
Yata hrishikesha kalena devaki kamsena ruddati chiram shucharpita vimochitaham trasahatmaja vibho tvayeva natena muhur vipadganat. O Hrishikesh, master of the senses and lord of lords, you have released your mother, Devaki, who was long imprisoned and distressed by the envious King Kamsa, and me and my children from a series of constant dangers. Vishanmahagne purushada darshanad asat sabhaya vanavasa krichchata mridhe mridhe nekamaharatrato draunyastrataschasma herebhirakshita. My dear Krishna, your lordship has protected us from a poisoned cake, from a great fire, from cannibals, from the vicious assembly, from sufferings during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great generals fought. And now you have saved us from the weapon of Ashvatthama.
So these two verses describe, Queen Kunti is describing all the various calamities she went through in her life, right? There's so many times where Krishna protected her. I remember last week when Radhika Raman Prabhu was here, he was talking about how it can be valuable to remember instances in our own life where we can see Krishna's hand protecting us. Are there any instances from your life where you've experienced that, maybe that you'd like to share, where you saw Krishna's hand, where he was helping you out?
Everywhere, actually. I think I can say about this service that I do for Maharaj, the Bhakti community. If you ask anybody in my family from the time I was grown, I was very introvert, hardly would talk to anybody. And the service that was given was you have to talk a lot to newcomers who you don't even know, and that to Western newcomers. And I really see that Krishna, via the medium of spiritual master, gives a lot of empowerment, and it's really mystical how it happens. And so I see Krishna's hand in that. Without, I couldn't have done anything without Krishna's hand.
Amazing. I think we can give a big round of applause to these devotees. Thank you so much. You guys can return to your seats, and then we'll call up the next batch. Shamalangi Mataji, Rohini Dulal Prabhu, Anapayani Bhakti, Apara Gaurangi Mataji, and Akshar Nitai. The first question will be the same as the previous group. This is going to be a little bit of charade, so maybe pick two actors and... Yeah, come on. One more person. Akshay. Okay, so Arjun will give you guys a translation, and then you have to act out the verse for your teammates. And so for this group, the verses will be focused on the second half of the verses. Good luck.
Gopya dade tvai kritagashidam tavad yate dashashruka lilanjana sambramaksham Vaktram niniya bhaya bhavanaya stitasya samam vimohayati bhirapi yad bibeti.
Arjun, could you read the translation?
My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes. And you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me.
This is a nice verse because Karthik is coming up, but this actually has a very interesting point made. The translation states that, and you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you, you being Krishna. And this sight was bewildering to Queen Kunti. So Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. How can he be afraid of anything?
So Krishna is supremely independent, so he can act the way he acts. And we understand that we have the internal potency of the Lord, which arranges the pastimes to increase the love and affection and the rasa between the devotees. So that is the reason Krishna becomes fearful.
Exactly, that's spot on. The rasa between the devotees, that's the relationship that Krishna has with his mother. Mother Yashoda's devotion for Krishna is so sweet that she just takes him as a child. She doesn't consider the fact that, he's Supreme Lord. And so in that relationship, Krishna reciprocates by being afraid. So perfect, exactly, spot on. Now imagine you're out distributing books. You're having a nice conversation with someone, and you're really resonating with them. They're resonating with what you're saying. They're really liking what you're saying. And then they ask, well, how can I stop the cycle of birth and death and get out of it? Is there a verse from the second half of Queen Kunti's prayers that you would cite to...
Shrinvanti gayanti grinanti abhikshnasha smaranti nandanti tavehitam jana Tavehamanan
पश्यन्त्यचिरेण
enatavakam bhava pravaho paramam padambujam.
Could one of you maybe explain why you would use this verse in this case?
So this verse talks about by reciting Krishna's names, remembering them, or taking pleasure in others doing so, we're able to stop the bhava pravaha, which is the repetition of birth and death.
Exactly, spot on. Okay, I'm gonna say one line from a verse. Let's see if you can get the rest of the verse and complete it. Jihasashi switsuridonu jivina.
Yesham nachanyat bhavata padam bhajat parayanam rajasuyojitamhasam.
The whole thing.
Apyadyanastam sakrite heta prabho jihasasi switsuridonu jivina. Yesham nachanyat bhavata padam bhajat parayanam rajasuyojitamhasam.
Arjun, would you be able to give the translation for that verse? I believe it's 1:837.
O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today, though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us, now when all kings are at enmity with us?
So in this verse, Queen Kunti is describing like, oh, Krishna, you're leaving us. How could you be leaving us? She goes on to cite 3 more reasons as things that might happen, negative things that they would be affected with if Krishna leaves. Do you recall what those reasons might be? Hint, it's the next 3 verses. And you can give the verse or the meaning, whatever is convenient for you.
One of the verses is Imejana Pada Sprita. She talks about all these pathways where people are walking. So all the rivers, all the ocean, everything is looking nice now because of your presence. But when you leave, right, this kingdom is not going to be any more beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one verse she talks about. And of course, she talks about the kingdom being decorated with the lotus feet of Krishna's footprints. So she doesn't want to leave Krishna. I mean, she doesn't want Krishna to leave.
And then Shamalangi Mataji.
She talks about Kevayam Nama Rupa Bhyam Yadhubi Sa Pandava Bhavato Darshanam Yarhi Rishikanam Iveshitu. So all the name and the fame which we have, of the Pandavas and the Yadus, all will be gone if you do not glance at us.
Haribol, perfect. All 3. Arjun, would you be able to recite 1:841, Sanskrit and translation?
Ata Vishvesha Vishvatman Vishvamurte Svakeshu Me Sneha Pasham Imam Chindi Dridam Pandushu Vrishneshu. O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please, therefore, sever my tie of affection from my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis.
So this verse is interesting. Queen Kunti is asking Krishna to sever her tie, her affectionate tie with all her relatives. Why would she want this? My family, I enjoy my family. I like their association. They support me so much. Why would she want to sever her tie with her relatives? Any thoughts, any commentary?
So basically, Kunti Maharani is facing a dilemma here. If Krishna stays with them, Kurus will be benefited, and but Yadus will be feeling separation from him. But both Kurus and Yadus are relatives to Kunti Maharani. And if Krishna leaves, Yadus will be benefited, and Kurus will be in separation. So she is thinking like, maybe I'm thinking too much in the bodily relationships. And if you cut that knot, right? So next verse she talks about Tvayim Ananya Vishya. So when the devotion service is on a higher level, when it is performed at the platform of the mind, of course, for a sadhaka, so then there is no obstacle like this. So that's one of the lessons that we can learn. But of course, she wants relationships also because Pandavas are pure devotees.
Amazing, perfect. Would you like to add something?
obviously continuing off Tvai me nanya vishaya is a very famous verse from Bhakti Samartha Sindhu Anya Bhilashita Shunyam. So pure bhakti is obviously without any other desire. And obviously Kunti Maharani is a pure devotee, but she is feeling that these attachments are coming in her way of, as Prabhu said, thinking of Krishna. So that is her mood behind those two verses.
In the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives example of expanding the horizon. Like usually we are concerned and we care about our family and we're concerned about them. But then he gives the example of the 6 Goswamis who made the entire world their family. So this verse also hints at that we should not just try to limit our vision only to our family, but to expand it to the entire world.
Perfect. That's a great analogy. So some of you referenced the next verse. Does anyone recall what it is? Maybe you could recite it.
Matir madhupate sakrit pratim udvahatat ganga gange vaugamudanvati.
Does anyone recall the translation by chance?
Let my attention flow to you the same way the Ganga flows to the sea. O Lord of Madhu, without any hindrance.
This is a very sweet verse, actually, like Prabhu was saying. Could you give some commentary on this verse, what it means to you? Why is it significant? What does it mean in terms of sadhana, in terms of practice, in terms of devotion to Krishna? Bonus points for additional citations from any verses, not just from Queen Kunti's.
The key point that I took from that was getting rid of all distractions. Because once your distractions are removed, now you're free to go and advance in Krishna consciousness. So that is the process, as we see with Anartha Nivritti and then Nishtha. Once one reaches Nishtha, then everything is easy, right? At least it becomes easier. There's no distractions holding us back. But until that point, as Maharaj said in our class, we have the whole situation with Jata Shraddha Matkatasu, where we're stuck in these situations that have been created by ourselves only. So if we can remove them, then we can focus on Krishna.
So there is one of the verses in Bhagavad Gita, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana, bahushaka hi anantasya buddhaya avyavasayinam. So Kunti Maharani is praying as a pure devotee, but for a sadhaka, right, how he can avoid other distractions and do one-pointed service, devotional service, so that he can come to the platform of Bhava Bhakti.
I just wanted to say that I remember this verse before chanting, that it applies to my chanting, that let my mind not be diverted anywhere and come back to those beads and the sound of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
Okay, one last verse. If you could do the Sanskrit and translation for 1843, the last verse of Queen Kunti's prayers.
Shri Krishna Krishna Saka Vrishni Rishabhavani Dhrug Rajanyavam Sadahanapanaparavirya Govinda Godvija Surarti Haravatara Yogeshwara Kila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. O Krishna, O friend of Arjuna, O chief amongst the descendants of Vrishni, you are the destroyer of those political parties which are disturbing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and you descend to relieve the distresses of the cows, the brahmanas, and the devotees. You possess all mystic powers, and you are the preceptor of the entire universe. You are the Almighty God, and I offer you my respectful obeisances.
Amazing. What a verse. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions how this verse is kind of like Queen Kunti's summary of Lord Krishna. Could you maybe elaborate on that? Based on that, what do you think Queen Kunti's mood might be throughout these entire prayers? What is her mood? What is she feeling?
So something that's interesting is that the first phrase after Sri Krishna is Krishna Saka. And Krishna Saka here is not meaning friend of Krishna, it's actually meaning friend of Arjuna. And we see that because it's the first phrase, this is her direct connection to Krishna. It's because obviously she is the aunt of Krishna. But also, more importantly, is that the best of the Pandavas, Arjuna, is directly in a close friendship with Krishna. So that is mentioned first. And then we see her mention Rishabha Vanidrug, right? So he's the best of the Vrishnis, which is her own family, and he killed all these other kings that are causing trouble in the world, which you can now point back to some of the previous verses with Vishan Mahagne, Purusha, Darshanat, and how the kings like Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan were causing great problems to devotees, obviously her and the Pandavas. And so like that we see her own take on Krishna being given in this verse. And it, at least if we look at it, she's directly, when we're looking at it, it's directly a reflection of what she has in connection with Krishna.
Amazing. Would anyone like to add anything?
I think it also highlights the point that Krishna is called Bhavagrahi, and so the Krishna is called Bhakta Vatsala, that he is more famous because of his connections and relationship with the devotees. So in this verse highlights many names of Krishna, which are not really because of him, but the names given to Krishna because of his connection to the devotees. So it highlights the point that devotees are more merciful and more dear to other devotees than the Lord himself. And they're more important.
Yeah. That's a beautiful point. Thank you. I think give the devotees a big round of applause. That's all we have. One thing that I'd like to point out is that these devotees, they were pre-selected. I did talk to them before. Hey, I didn't want to just throw them up here and start without them knowing. But none of the questions were known to them. They all answered all these questions on the spot. We didn't share any questions with them. So a big props to them for all their amazing work. This is actually only a small handful of all the devotees that participated in the entire Queen Kunti's prayers. I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge at least to name all the devotees who participated. One thing I'll request though, there's actually a total of around 73 to 74 devotees that participated, which is amazing. So I'll list out the names of all the devotees who participated. One request is that I'll be doing this by level by which they submitted. Maybe we can hold all the applause until the end of each level. So this first is the participant level. There's Vittala Panda Prabhu, Agastya Sharma Prabhu, Tadya Seva Prabhu, and Pankaj Prabhu. And one additional request, if you're here in person, please feel free to stand up so all the devotees can recognize you. Next is level 1. There's Akshil Salunke, Tulsi Salunke. Sorry? Oh, yes. Yes, the participant level was who we just announced. These are devotees. The participant level, all the devotees who memorized at least one verse, regardless of their busy schedule. They took the time to learn one verse, and they submitted a video recording to validate that. The next group is level 1. This group learned at least 3 verses. So this group includes Akshil Salunke, Tulsi Salunke, Gayatri Budaraju, Gopal Singh Sethi, Kovi Chindam, and Jambavati Mataji, who also submitted translations for her verse as well. And Radha Kripa Prabhu. Next, we have the devotees who submitted for level 2. This means they learned 7 verses. And some of these devotees also learned the translations for these verses. So I'll list out these devotees' names. Now, there's a big list here. Venugita Mataji, Sanika Mataji, Aradhya, Prisha, Arjun, Arman, Ananga Sundari Mataji, Vasuprada, Geeta Priya, Sankriti, Amira, Rohini, Shraveta, Kishori, Arna, Palika Mataji, Sukanya, Rasheshwari Mataji, Manjula Kanta Mataji, Manjari Gopika Mataji, and Radhika. Big hand of applause for all of these. As we continue up now, we have level 3. These are devotees who learned half of the verses, and some of them also submitted the translations as well. So we have Priyanka Mataji, Gopika, Yogadisha Das, Keshav, Ambarish, Vaishnavi, Shriyan, Sham Jagannath Prabhu, Bhagwat Pran, and then the next 2 also submitted translations, Manya and Abhijit. Finally, the last group is all the devotees that learned the entire set of verses. And some of them memorized learned the translations as well. And I'm happy to say that this was actually the biggest group of all the groups so far. So good props to the whole community. First, we have Vaisesika Maharaj. You have Govind Prabhu, Krishna Sakha Prabhu, Ram Priya Prabhu, Naina Manjari, Yashoda Priya Mataji, Avanish, Tarani Mataji, I think, Kamalakshi Radha Mataji, Achyuta Chaitanya Prabhu, Kautuk Karnava Prabhu, Sindhu Kanya Mataji, Brajarasa Bhavana, Malini Mataji, Arun Vishwanathan Prabhu, Kunjari, Sukheshwari Mataji, and Radhika Priya Mataji. These are all devotees who did level 4 and memorized all the verses. And there's a few more devotees now. These are also level 4 devotees, but they also submitted translations for the verse as well. So there's Pavani Bhakti Mataji, Shamalangi Mataji, Anamai, Anushri, Anapayani Bhakti, Radhika Anuradha Mataji, Akshanitai, Rohini Dalal Prabhu, Madhuri Saki, and Apara Gaurangi Mataji. Haribol! And Shraddha Mataji. If there are any names that I missed, please forgive me. And please reach out to me so I can make sure I document it and make sure you're given the according rewards. So speaking of rewards, we actually have stickers for everyone. It's based on level. And for those devotees who learn translations, we also have magnets for them. I think it might be a bit difficult to have everyone come up here right now. So what I'll do is during Prashadam, I'll be outside with a table, and you can come talk to me, and I'll make sure you get your reward. Next, I just want a big thank you to the team behind the scenes. Without them, all the amazing content that we produced, the purports, the commentaries, all the forms, all these stickers, everything you see, it would not be possible without any of them. I just want to make sure that they get a lot of recognition. They're all students. They're all in college. One of them was in a different state. He's actually here today, so that's good. And so they spend a lot of time working in college, doing their work, managing home life, making food if they're in school. And they still took the time after all that to make the effort to create all this amazing content for all the devotees and make sure to provide the best possible experience for all of you. So I want to give a big shout out to Anapayani Bhakti. Anushri. And then we have Anshu. Arjun, Abhay, and then Madhuri Saki. And then most importantly, I think we'd all like to give a big thanks to Vaisesika Maharaj, who's the mastermind behind all of this. He's our biggest motivator, the biggest inspiration, the reason we do any of this. Haribol! Lastly, maybe I'll pass the mic to Maharaj if you'd like to add any final comments and conclude on Queen Kunti's prayers.
He wants to come up.
Thanks to the whole team for taking this the next step. It's always amazing how we can start with something seemingly casual and then brand it, and then it becomes a major part of our lives. And one of the ways in which Prabhupada says we can transfer ourselves to the spiritual world is by transferring our attention to the Shastra. There's a lot to consider here in the material world, but it's here today, gone tomorrow. Ultimately inconsequential. As Anapayani Bhakti's teacher in high school said, consider if the thing you're worrying about will be consequential in 5 years, and if the answer is yes, then consider 100 years. And Prabhupada writes in the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam that besides chanting the Mahamantra and learning to perfect that, we should also learn to perfect other mantras and learn shlokas. And he cites Gajendra as an example of one who was able to take advantage even in his next life. Prabhupada gave us a wealth of Shastra. And as we're all experiencing, the deeper we go into it, the more we notice that it's unlimited. Oftentimes, there's a tendency to look at something summarily and then jump to something else. I want something deeper. But the material at hand, just hearing the devotees today explain the subtleties of each one of the verses, indicates that you could write a PhD thesis on any one of the verses. In fact, even one of the words within one of the verses. And this is becoming a mainstay of our community, going more deeply into Shastra, and it's almost unnoticeable. It's almost like transcendental mission creep until we have been enveloped by the process itself. Prabhupada liked this. He also liked when devotees had a deep meaning for deep understanding of the meanings of the verses and so forth. And we're looking forward to expanding the program. Thank you, all of you who are stepping into the roles of leadership in this, and everyone who participated, who gave their attention to it. It's very enriching. And I pray that we may start the next series as soon as possible before we get distracted by anything else. We have come up with a plan for the next phase, although we haven't completely narrowed down the exact number of verses. But if we ask Shamalangi, she'll probably say more is better than fewer. Thank you very much, everyone who participated, and I pray to Srila Prabhupada that we may give more and more of our attention to reading his books and the Shastra, so that we can become, as he said to us, Krishna conscious, and go back home, back to Godhead. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much for all of your participation. That concludes our segment for Queen Kundi's prayers. I think the next thing on our agenda is announcements, if I'm not mistaken.
Before that, round of applause for Yogadish, Prabhu.
Apologies, I think the next thing on the schedule is actually a grain ceremony. So maybe we can get set up for that. Thank you so much.
Shri Krishna, Hari Hari. Savana Bhavatu, Savana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinam Aditam Astu Ma Vidvishabhai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Would you all like to sit for just a little bit more?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Swastino Govinda, Swastino
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Swastino Narayana,
Hare Rama,
Swastino Vishakshmena
Rama, Hare
Swastino Vanai Tai Harihi, Swastino Anandana Sukho Hano Bhavatu Taratu, Swasti Swasti Swamamai Kesho Mahade, Sakchit Anandana, Sarveshwaresho Daratu, Padotu Swasti Me Krishna, Sarvalokeshwareshwaraha, Karshnaraya Sakurvantu, Swasti Me Lokapavanaha. Om Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Welcome Vaidehi and family. Thank you very much. This is a samskar performance. Samskars, it's natural that as we are in the world, we record what's going on. It goes into the virtual cloud of our mind stuff, and it remains there life after life. So there's a very commonsensical way in which Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita that one can end the confusion and anxiety that one has by randomly assimilating images and sound vibrations of this world, and very specifically chart a course for one's life and for the life of one's children, so that every incident in life will be connected to Krishna. And this very sublime method of samskars includes a first grain ceremony at the time when the child's around 6 months and begins to look longingly at the parents having a bowl of rice or a chapati is happening. Then, amazingly, we can judge biologically by time and also by the symptoms. The child is ready to start taking grains. So which grains will the child take? Mahaprasadam, lovingly offered to Krishna. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yat Goroshi Arashnashi As Juhoshi Dadasi Yat Yat Tapasyasi Konteya Tat Kurishva Manarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, give away, whatever sacrifices you perform, do it for me. So today, Vaidehi, you'll be taking Mahaprasadam first grains. Very few people on the planet get that opportunity. But you'll be here in front of Shishi Radha Madan Mohan with your family members, immediate and extended, witnessing this. You may not even know what I'm saying right now. And you may not remember it till you see the pictures later, but there's a way in which the impression still goes deep within the heart. That's the samskar. And that forms the character and the outlook of the child. And in Vaidehi's case, will bring her to this point of loving Krishna and being attached to Krishna in all different ways. And this is what we pray for. So now, let us, as customarily we do, recite the Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 15. It's only 20 verses. And in it, Aham Vaishva Naro Bhutva means Krishna says, I am the fire of digestion within every body. Vaidehi, ready? Here we go. Purushottam Yoga. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdva Mulam Adashakam Ashvatam Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Syaparnani Yastam Veda Cha Veda Vid Adashchordvam Prashritastasya Shaka Guna Pravrida Vishaya Pravala Adashta Mulan Anusantatani Garmanu Bandini Manushya Loke Narupamasyeha Tatopalabhyate Nanto Nachadir Nacha Sampratishta Ashvatamenam Suvaruda Mulam Asanga Shastrena Dridhena Chitva Tatakpadam Tad Parimargitavyam Yasmin Gatana Nirvartanti Puya Kameva Chadyam Purusham Prapadye Yatatra Vikti Prashyata Purani Nirvana Moha Jita Sangha Dosha Adhyatma Nitya Vinivritya Kama Madheva Mukta Sukha Dukha Samhe Gachantya Mula Paramagyayanta Natat Vasayate Suyo Nashashako Napavakaha Yatgatva Navivartante Tadama Paramam Mama Mamaya Vasho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha Manashastani Griyani Prakriti Sani Kashyati Shariram Yalavapnoti Yakshapikramati Grihitvaitani Sanyati Ayurgandhani Vashaya Sotram Chakshus Parshanam Cha Rasanam Granameva Cha adhishtaya manashchayam vishayarupasevate uttamam tam stitam vabi ujjanam vagunamritam vimuhanarupashyanti pashyanti jnanachakshusha yatanto yoginaschainam pasyantyatmanyavasthitam yatanto kyakritatmano nainam pasyanti chetasaha yadadityagatam tejo jagat vasayate kilam yachandramasi yachandno tattejo vihimamakam Gama Vishya Chabhutani Dharayami Ojasa Ushnami Chausadi Sarva Soho Bhutara Satmana Vaishvanaro Bhutva Karinam Dehamashita Kanamana Samayukta Pachamyanam Chaturvidham Sarvasya Chaham Sannivishto Matasya Vidyanam Apohanam Cha Yedeshta Sarve Amameva Vedyo Vedanta Kriveda Videva Chaham Radhina Purusha Loke Sarasarvadi Bhutani Utastokara Uchate Uttama Purushastvanya Paramatmeti Bhavita Yolokatraya Mahisha Ivartadyaya Ishvara Yasmaksharamati-toham Acharati Chottama Adosmi Loke Vedesha Radhika Purushottama Yom Evam Sambuddho Janati Purushottamam Sarvavid Bhajatimam Sarvabhavena Bharata Iti Guhyattamam Shastram Idam Muktam Mayanada Edat Buddha Buddhimasya Krita Bharata Om Tat Sariti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishadsu Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Purushottam Yoga Namaha Panchavashodhyayaha Hari Om. And now to the soft chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Dear Kripana Vatsala Prabhu, Lakshmi, Janavi, we'd like to invite Videhi to come over and receive first grains. Videhi, permission?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Yum Yum Papi.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
And now we will very scientifically discern future proclivities. Vaidehi, before you have worlds of opportunity. On the right, Srimad Bhagavatam, and on the left you have huge stacks of cash and gold bangles, jewels. So please, using your enthusiasm, indicate to us which way you'd like it to be facilitated in your life. Help yourself.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
With the cedar, it sometimes works better. It's hard to crawl. Yeah, that's easy. One thing is definitely gravitating towards family. So she'll be very family oriented. She's expressing emotion. So we'll have definite, very deep emotions for Krishna. She's mostly looking at Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan. She's easily pacified. Vaidehi. You've been great. Yeah, that's better. Deity worship. Deity worship. Srimad Bhagavatam studies. She reached a little bit towards the Lakshmi, and now she won't let go of the Bhagavatam, which means, interpreted, she realizes the great value of Bhagavatam. And she will have deep respect for the Shastra, deity worship, family, and she'll always know that the Bhagavatam is the Amla Purana, the topmost Purana. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadevi, if you so desire, please bless our dear Vaidehi, that she may always swim in love of Shri Shri, love of your lotus feet and devotional service, be absorbed in Srimad Bhagavatam, and be successful in all her endeavors in her life. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande Haribol. I hereby declare this grain ceremony on this day of October 12, 2024, in which we observe Vaidehi take her first grains, to be a complete success. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpurusha Kripasanabhevasha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,